But dude, yeah,
Cool.
it's I wanted to practice viewing a lot because I was told, I used to spend a lot of time. I still go in a little bit the remote viewing Discord just to talk to people and kind of get some feedback. And I was told
Yeah.
by a lot of people like you should do some sessions, like you should get good at this yourself to understand it. And I did that, and I literally effed up my data pool so bad. I'm done. I'm not remote viewing anymore. I'm done with it.
Did you have any good ones? Did you have any where you were like,
I
oh,
had
this 2 out of 10 or like
My
amazing?
my best ones are, I don't have any that are like crazy good. Well, actually, I do have one or two good ones on my site. I think some of my best ones are on your site though. Before I
Oh
built
yeah.
ARV Collective, yeah, yeah, I have one. Do you know your? Well, this is like a target spoiler. It's one target. It shouldn't be the end of the world. Where it's like the bridge, it's like that super long bridge with the pillars.
With the loops, with the arches, or no?
No, it's
I
like
might.
it's like a really long bridge on water, and there's just a bunch of
Hmm.
like columns supporting it. It's like a wide shot of a bridge.
I don't. I can't think of it, but
It's
I
alright.
believe you.
Anyways, I got that one of the first sessions I did on your site. I got the only impression I got was like thin vertical lines, and I think my AOL was a jail cell, right?
Oh,
And the bridge had
that's
like a
funny.
million. Yeah, yeah. So I have occasional good sessions, but my stats are pretty terrible.
Yeah, I had one that stands out to me as like one that really, I don't know, like stuck with me impression wise that I did is I had this one session and I had this really strong impression of like these bars, like
Mm,
jail cell bars, like what you just said.
yeah.
And then like empty space between them. And like the fact that there was like multiple like cylinders, like bar size with empty space, the empty space like came through like really strong. And I was like, what what is this thing? And I'm pretty sure I also wrote like jail cell. And then I finally saw the target, and it was like a massive brontosaurus, and his rib cage was like
Oh,
front and
really?
center. And I
That's
was like,
awesome.
oh, no way.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Do you track your own stats for your sessions?
So, it's so funny. I have so few sessions on social RV. No one's commented on that, but I imagine some people are like, bro, what the heck's going on here? All my sessions, I have like 100 private, which are all like test garbage,
Yeah.
skewing my stats. The four public are legit. But then when I like went out to actually learn remote viewing, um, if I'll share my screen here for a second, if
Yeah, go
that's
for it.
okay.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
Okay.
so when I originally, before I made Social RV,
Hmm.
I tracked all my sessions in Notion.
Yes.
And this is actually a public link. I was thinking about putting it in my Social RV profile even, but we're going to release a feature soon that lets you upload like previous off-platform sessions, and so I'm just going to upload them then.
Yep.
But I have about like 80 in here that I've done, and I tracked them all here. And some of them are like pretty good. Let's see, like this is one of my very first ones I ever did, that I really enjoed.
Does it say
Let's see.
sheep or sleep?
It, sheep, yeah,
Sheep.
sheep.
Okay.
AOL
Seven
sheep,
warm soft. Okay. And you got a
and
bunch
it,
of sheep down there.
and the target was a penguin exhibit at the zoo.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and this one was like another early one.
So when you have the accuracy, is that a self score? Or did you were you using an
Yeah,
AI? That's a self
no,
score.
so this is all like self-scored. Right now, I think I have this sorted by the self-score, which is why they're, yeah, coming up this way. But out of the 80, like 20 or 30 were this good,
Mm.
which is kind of what really brought me to like going further and making more of the platform.
Hmm.
And I'm really hoping to upload these and score them all. It's just a lot of manual effort to do it. And also because they're all targets that aren't from our target pool, we needed features where like if you upload an off-platform session, you also need the ability to like make a target, right? And so there's like several groundwork features that I wanted to build first.
Mm.
But yeah, we're gonna do that. A lot of it's almost done, and then I'll upload all mine and AI rank them all. But what I was doing them, one thing I would do, because I was still in the mindset of like, am I crazy? Am I just seeing what I want to see? Is this real? I don't know. So I would actually like take my impressions and I'd look at the target and I'd be like, oh yeah, this feels great. And then I'd look at like the last 7 or 8 that I did, and I'd be like, okay, if this had been the target, do I still feel like this was a good session? Do I still feel like this was a good session?
Hmm.
So I was kind of doing that myself. But obviously, I was not blind. I knew what the target was, and so that's why we went further and made the actual platform.
Yeah, that's something, and when I had that conversation with Craig, that whole displacement thing was something that he brought up a lot. And I've talked to other viewers, and it seems to be a big problem. I don't know if anyone has worked out, like in an operational or a statistical setting, like a scientific, protocol setting, how do you, I guess, deduce displacement and see if it's better than chance. Like my current idea on how to do it is you literally just take every impression and compare it to the 10 closest targets and see if that on average gets better on chance. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that too, because now we also have a data set now where it's like we know the last session you did, the next session you
Mm-hmm.
did, blah blah blah. And so what I was thinking we might try to do at some point in the future is run an analysis where we say like, okay, if we shift your target by one, so we compare every session to like not the
Mm.
right target, but the next target that
Yep.
you viewed. How does that look,
Mm.
right? Um, and that could be some interesting results for sure. But I think that because right now the decoy scoring, you can't get better than like a 1 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
It might not do a good job showing the decoy or the displacement effect,
Mm-hmm.
because it might be the case that you just have like 5% of the time you have displacement to your next target, but you view it really, really, really accurately.
Mm-hmm.
And if the best you can get scored on that one is like a 1 out of 10, it might just wash out in the stats, is
Mm.
kind of what I think. So we need something where like your best session can get scored like, a 1 in 1,000, 1 in 1,000,000,
Yeah,
whatever. First.
that was like one of my main ideas with this new judging system I built is to exactly allow that. Because the problem that I realized is exactly that, where like a top 0.0001% session and a top 10% session get the same credit, which is,
Yeah.
and there's also like you can imagine a world, or like you can imagine an effect where even if like the remote viewing effect size, like on remote viewing abilities, is like pretty small, the effect size on like significant outliers might be way more significant. Like you might see
Yeah.
10x like crazy outliers than you do not non-crazy outliers. So that's something that I wanted to measure, which, and that got me thinking, like, how the hell do I judge sessions based off of more decoys? Because doing it with the AI model, just with vision, like using logic to compare them, bro, it takes forever. It's like slightly more expensive, and like it gets like pretty much exponentially harder the more decoys you do. At least that's my understanding. But that's why I really wanted to make vector embedding work, is because
Yeah.
you take it from AI to being algorithmic. Like the AI does the vector embedding, but you only need to do the vector embeddings once for each target, and then you have the values, and then you just run it through an algorithm, and computers are great at that, and you keep going.
Yeah, the vector embedding is killer. I think you're definitely on the right track there. Because yeah, it's just quick computational work at the end, and you can compare it to like millions of other examples.
Mm-hmm.
And if we wanted to compare the decoy judging to more, you could do something where you do if you have 300 total targets,
Mm-hmm.
you could do 30 groups of 10, right? And you could see how does this target rank against this 10, this 10, this 10, this 10, and you'd know every single target in the 300 that it got ranked better than and worse than, and you could put it in like a final ranking. Um, but that would still only give you like an out of 300, and that would be pretty expensive. You'd have to run it 30 times, right? The vector embedding is like instant, and it's like, so cheap you can't even measure how cheap it is because
Yeah,
it's just a
it's
quick like
fractions
math
of a
lookup.
fraction of a cent.
Yeah, so it's if that's working well, then it's obviously like much much better to do. So I'm really excited that you are getting it to work well, and to see where it continues to go. Like that's a great area of research to continue down. And that also, because it's like cosine distance instead of just an AI giving a ranking,
Mm-hmm.
obviously then you're going to get like the off the chart results for like 1 in 1 billion sessions.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I personally worry about that the vector embeddings might not ever be able to solve, um, and I don't know that the AI is that good at this either, and maybe the right answer is a combination of more than one thing,
Mm-hmm.
is oftentimes like the drawing impressions you see in a remote viewing session don't make sense until you see the target. You actually
Mm.
need it in context of the target to appreciate what that drawing is, and to say like, oh, that is a match. And without seeing the target, you have no idea what this drawing is. It looks like a squiggle,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so a vector embedding is never going to be able to capture that, because the like vision piece that is like putting the meaning into the vector of what this drawing is like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the drawing is, bro. Um, but with the decoy judging, you get to see the drawing in context of each of the
Mm.
decoy targets, but it's still blind.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, with the vector embedding, that's something, I mean, what I've been doing, because I've had it working for probably around a week now, like some version of vector embedding judging. And, what I've really just been working with is tweaking the different knobs in the algorithm, right? And like tweaking the logic flow, for the AI and the algorithm, because there's so many things. Like I'll give you like one minute example just to give you a sense of how many things you can tweak in the asymmetric chamfers distance algorithm. You can basically add or customize an exponent that basically puts non-linear, like a higher amount of weight on hits than it does misses, right? So if you have like different vector pairs, like for the target and impression, and you have like one that's like really bad and one that's really good, you could have the algorithm where they basically cancel each other out. Or you could put an exponent on the really good one, so a really good hit and a really bad miss, the hit is weighed way more. And what's funny, I thought that would be good, and it didn't help my p-values really. It honestly didn't change the result much at all. Maybe it made it slightly worse, which is what I didn't expect. And what else is funny? One of the other, knobs that I've been messing with is how many descriptors to produce from each target and impression in order to embed. And I actually found that less is better. Like I started with 30 descriptors a pop, 30 descriptors for every target, 30 descriptors for every impression, having 15 of those be literal and 15 of those be semantic. And my results pretty much came out to chance. The best result I ever got was 12 descriptors, 5 semantic and 7 literal. And my idea about why that works is because if you have too many descriptors, basically just noise gets increased and your chance gets closer to average. But if you have lower descriptors, there's not as much noise to base, so you're basically going to pull out the better information more. I honestly have no idea how or why it works, but it seems to be doing well.
I can see that. Like if you have to come up with 30 descriptors for every target, and some of the targets aren't that complex, at the end of the day, you're just saying like, there's sky, there's water,
Yeah.
there's ground. It's like, yes, there's always ground. And so then it just gets like washed out.
Yeah, yeah, and the hard part about that is like it seems to be better on average the judging if you have like less descriptors, but the problem is that does make it worse at picking out really tiny details. Like I'll give you an example. So the first guy I interviewed with this named Nick Bro, his username. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right, like Brow or Bro. His username's Higher Minded. He had one session where like some of the information was okay. There was a bit of like missing information, but the target was basically like a tiny island, and it had 2 people like walking next to each other on the island. And he wrote one of like the 30 things that he wrote in his impression was how exactly did he word it? I think he said like 4 legs total, but up on 2 legs, which is describing two-legged creatures walking, which is absolutely perfect, but that got drowned out by the rest of the noise, and it didn't get ranked a great hit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so frustrating. I mean, I get people like leave feedback or comments too when the AI does a bad job, and it's so frustrating when you see like a session like that. You're like, bro, this is amazing,
Yeah.
and the AI is just like, I don't know, bro, this sucks. And you're like, no, what do you mean it sucks?
Yeah,
What are you talking about?
I don't know if it's
It's
ever
so
going to be
tough.
perfect.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't
even
think it will.
even human judges, they found when they did the original research and they had humans doing all of the decoy based judging and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Between humans, they didn't agree at all, and they would have several humans do the judging of the same targets, and they would come up with like wildly different answers, even when they had like quite a bit of data. But even the same judge who judged the same target against the
Mm.
same decoys, like a month later, he would produce wildly
He was
different
hungry
answers.
when he was doing the second judging.
Yeah, the inter and intra judging reliability was really bad. And so, when you see it as a human, you're like, oh, I wouldn't make that mistake. But the humans are actually very bad at doing it, it seems like. And the AI might have bad inter judging reliability, but at least the intra judging,
Hmm.
where if it did the same session multiple times, um, it seems like is pretty stable. Like when I was developing our judge, I would run the same session, the same decoys like 50 times, and I'd see the spread of scores. And as long as the session had more than like a very small amount of data, the spread would usually be very tight. So the
Mm.
intra judging is really good, which is great. So you're solving half the problem, and then the other half, yeah, like I don't know. I also really looking forward to trying out Gemini because right now we use
Oh yeah, what do you
chat we use
use?
GPT.
Oh, I
Yeah.
used to
So
use Gemini for my decoy judging.
do you still use Gemini?
Well, I moved everything over to Nova over the last day or two. That's what I call the
Oh,
new
gotcha.
system. But from the beginning, so you know how I have like that level up system? There was basically just to unlock features. Like people who were just starting, they got 2.0 Flash, and then I made like
Mhm.
more advanced users who get a higher level 2.5 Flash.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, I know at my previous startup, my AI coding startup that I was at, um, we found Gemini's image recognition and video recognition to be just like insanely
Hmm.
good compared to everything else.
Yeah.
The startup that I was at, we did like enterprise AI coding stuff, and you could show it like a screen recording of you like walking through some code, and it would like 100% fully understand everything you were talking about, every
Yep.
file you touched, every line of code on the screen, and all that stuff. And no one else could come close. So like just stuff like that, I was always really impressed with. It's like video and image recognition. Yeah, we have like a newer version of the Judge that uses Gemini that's been in progress for a while, and it keeps getting put off because more important stuff comes up, and like the Judge does work, and there's other features that don't work at all.
Hmm.
So they become higher priority. But yeah,
What model is it? Is it three? Is it 3.0 Flash, or do you use like the actual non-Flash model?
that that one when we were doing like quick testing, it was like 2.5 Pro.
Oh, you use Pro. So for you said you use an OpenAI model. Which model do you use for the current
The one
version?
the current version is GPT 4.0,
Gotcha.
and it's just like default GPT 4.0. It doesn't even have like a version pinned, but the different versions aren't too different. Actually, I have some funny learnings on that
Yeah.
that I might think I can share this. Um, we if you look at our stats, so you'll see that they're like paired in groups of three.
Hmm.
Here, maybe I'll share my screen
Yeah, I know exactly what you're
and
talking about, but yeah, show it
and
to the
show
people
that.
watching.
Yeah, it's so strange. Where are we? Statistics. So they're
Yeah.
like in groups of three.
Hmm.
It's so weird. And I thought about this for like a very long time. I was trying to figure out like what could cause this. Because of the way that we do judging, we do like judge them in groups of three. And the reason that we do that is because 4.0 wasn't consistent enough to do all 10 in one shot.
Hmm.
So we show it 10 and we say like, what are the best three? And we take those out, and then we show it seven and we say, what are the best three? We take those
Oh,
out, we show it
really?
the last one. Yeah.
Wow.
And so in theory, that should work the same. But then you see this like grouping of three, and you're like, well, what? Obviously, like some artifact is happening there. Um, and we actually recently did some more research on this, and it turns out that one specific pinned version of GPT 4.0, there's like three versions of GPT 4.0, right? Like pinned
Hmm.
date release versions. One of them does this, and the other one gives you like just a normal distribution like you'd expect. And so it actually looks like what's happening is that specific version of GPT 4.0 does pick out the three that it thinks are the best, but it like inverts the order of them when it gives them back.
Really?
But the other versions of GPT 4.0 do not do that. They work as intended. And that's just like a really weird finding
That is
that
very
I
weird.
never would have thought, was a thing. Yeah, so we know why this happens now.
You know what's funny? I was talking to my friend Anton the other night. He's a guy I do jiu-jitsu with, and I was talking to him about remote viewing. And your site is always my go-to when I'm trying to convince skeptics. I always bring him to right to the stats page, and I was showing him this, and he asked me that question. He was like, "Why are they in bunches of three?" And I was like, "I don't know, bro.
Yeah,
It's probably random chance." But now I
yeah,
now I know the answer.
yeah. Now I do too. I just learned that this week actually. So very excited to learn that.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So when you switch to Gemini, if that's still planned, are you gonna like rerun all your sessions?
Yeah, so that's a
How
really
long is
good
that gonna
question.
take?
Yeah, more like how much is that going to cost? You can
Yeah,
run them in parallel and do it like pretty quick. But yeah, it'll cost probably a couple $100, maybe $1,000 to
yeah.
do
Well,
that.
it depends if you're using Pro or Flash as well. I mean, Flash is so
Yeah,
much cheaper.
yeah, and something we'll do too with the new one is we're gonna eval it against our data set, and we're gonna try like a bunch of different models, a bunch of different prompts, and we're gonna
Mm.
find out like which one performs the best, on like a subset, and then we'll like lock that in and run it against all of them. So it'll take a while. Yeah. But I want to go back to what you said about like you showing social RV as your go-to for like showing people remote viewing is real.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know this. I don't know if I've shared this, but that wasn't the reason I built social RV initially because that thing I needed a URL, one URL I could point someone to, and I could be like, look, just go here, you will see. And it needs to start off as like the simplest basic, like what is remote viewing? I claim it's real. And then go one level deeper, one level deeper, one level deeper. So that really crazy person that wants to see every last like I dotted and T crossed, they can go all the way to the bottom and they can see every blockchain verified session, provably blind. They can run the stats themselves. They can do all that themselves. But 99% of people are never going to get that deep, right? And so you want like the funnel going from simplest to most complex. And so I'm really excited to hear people are using it that way because that was what I, really wanted to build initially. I even actually own the domain is scireal.com and .org. And
Really?
it right now it directs to the stats page. And so I'm going to get stickers made up and I'm just going to like put them on places
Yeah.
is scireal.org. But yeah, that's the thing that was missing in this space. When I did my
Mm.
research, like I read like 20 remote viewing books in like a month and read a bunch of scientific papers and they have like really compelling results, right? All of them are like, this is the experiment we ran, meticulously documented, sounds great. Here's some example sessions, looks great. Here's the number we got, it's better than chance. Great, cool. That's like super compelling. And I don't think those researchers are lying, but this is such a world shattering thing. And I'm, crazy. So I was like, okay, cool. But I want to see all the sessions. I want to run the numbers myself. Like, how do I see them? And when they did this, these are all like pen and paper. So it's like not like they're already digital and they're just not giving it to you. Like it would be hard to get access to them. It'd be hard to run the judging on them because before AI, you'd have to do it by hand.
Mhm.
Even if you got access to them, you'd have a question of like, well, is this all of them? Did you throw away some of the bad ones? Right? Like, I don't know. Did you do, how do I know they're blind? Like, there's no way to know that they're blind, right?
Oh, that's a
Um,
question I have for you from the academic side of things, right? Because your code base isn't fully open source, or maybe this is in the part that is open source. How do you prove to the skeptic that you didn't like run some sort of like pre-analysis to filter out good sessions? Obviously, I know you don't, but
yeah.
obviously you have to be very meticulous when you're being
Yep.
scientific. What's that?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I've thought about that a lot as well. So, and also users have reached out and they said, "Hey, this target that I got for my session is so good. How do I know you didn't like swap it out behind the scenes?"
Mm,
Because you could do that. You could do
that's funny.
vector
Yeah.
search on the session and go find
Yeah.
the best target.
Yep.
It'd be a great onboarding feature, right? Like your first 10 are great hits.
Yeah. Yeah. Give them great ones. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. But so obviously there's like the one-off session. You can prove a one-off session was blind and the target was picked with the blockchain, right?
Hmm.
And that's totally solved. That's fine. We do a great job at that. There's the how do you know you didn't throw away any data question.
Mm.
Um, that you can figure out from our data, but we don't have it nicely packaged where you could look at the wallet we use, like how we store the
Mm.
data on chain, and you could just like run a query and you could say like give me every single blockchain transaction that this
Mm.
wallet has ever made. And then as long as you trust that we're always using the same wallet or same address or whatever, then you can see that you have the full set of blockchain sessions.
Well, it's kind of logically deducible that you would have to use the same wallet by the product of all of your sessions that you do show.
Yeah,
Being on that one wallet. Like if you tried to pull something with using different wallets and throwing out the bad ones, then you'd have like 80 different wallets. You know what I mean? To
yeah.
cross fit the good
Well,
ones.
we could have done that at the beginning, right? And then, like, if the results weren't better than chance, we could have still shown they were better than chance with blockchain verification, where we could have had like 100 going, right, for like months, and then we just take the best out of the 100 and we say this is the one. But if you keep doing new sessions on that one, then it's going to obviously deviate back to chance,
Mm.
and that doesn't happen. And we do just have the one. But yeah, so that's one way that you could fake that. Obviously we don't, and obviously we're still collecting new sessions with the same wallet. So that's a way that you can prove that you have all the sessions. One thing we are missing is on chain. We store the session ID, but we don't store the user ID. It'd be nice to also store that. So like this was this user session. We'll do that in V2. And then the last question is like, okay, have all the sessions, but how do I know that you didn't run the AI judging several times or something like that until you got like good scores on them? And so for that last part, um, We do have the judging code is actually open source now. It's not shared on the website just yet. It will be soon. So you could run the judging yourself against the set. We'll
Mm,
probably like do up some nice little Python notebooks so that it like pulls them down from the blockchain, confirms you have them all, and then runs the judging. And
mhm.
since our intra judging scores are pretty good, you won't always get exactly the same score for every session, but you should get the same like distribution. You should
Mm.
be able to run it and see they're all the same. It'll probably cost you like $200-300. Unfortunately, that's I don't know how we fix that. But so that'll hopefully like be the final thing you really need to see that it's proven. If you really wanted to go the whole length, and hopefully we'll have that last piece like soon.
Yeah, and interesting. And on that note, I've been thinking about. I want to give you this new judging system to run on your data set. I'm just trying to think about what's the best way to give it to you, so you don't have to like rebuild it. Like if I literally just export the code. But it's not incredibly complicated. I got to figure out how to transfer it the best because it's just a pain. So I'll figure that out. But if you want to run it on your data set, I'd be more than happy. And I really want to actually see how it does because it did wonders with my data set. But seeing how it does on a better one,
Yeah,
I'd be very interested. And it'll be a lot cheaper too. It'll
yeah, yeah.
if it's
I'd love to. I'd love
yeah.
to. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, something like we'll probably make more of our data set available. We actually already have an API to pull down the data. And so the idea is like someone like you could just use our data to eval your new judging system without
Oh, that's
even
awesome.
asking us. Yeah. And in fact, I can probably give you access to that to this if you want.
Yeah, if you want, I'll just
Um,
run it instead of having to export it. I mean, if you want the full judge, I can figure out a way to export it. But in the meantime, if you just want to give me that, I'll run it myself because it's dirt cheap, and then I'll share the results, and you can tell me if you want it or
yeah,
not.
the only caveat with the API, and I'm still trying to figure out the best product way to handle this, is and this doesn't really matter for testing your judge, I guess, but it matters for skeptics, is you have the ability to mark a session as private. And that's really important because since you can't delete sessions, if you accidentally have something in your picture that's private, or you don't realize that the data you wrote down is kind of sensitive until you see it in context of a target or things like that, you need some way
Oh,
to make them private. But
I
obviously, if we
see.
have this like open API to get anyone's sessions, it's like kind of
Yeah,
bad if you
you'd
give
have
them
to
the
only make
private
it
ones.
non-private sessions, and then that introduces a ton of bias because people obviously are gonna. So that's
Right.
I want to ask you about this.
Yeah,
So on my site,
exactly.
I very intentionally don't have the ability to make it private, and
Yeah.
my thought on that is that I really want like my whole philosophy with the site is I really want to make remote viewing meritocratic. I want to make it very public and open where people can practice, it's very open, people can see each other's sessions, and the best viewers their statistics will rise and come to the top. And for people who do want private sessions, they have social RV. Like I've had people email me, like doing the contact form of my site. Hey, I don't see some way to make sessions private. I go, there's a site called Social RV who's great who does that. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on a different framework like mine where you don't allow sessions to be private?
Yeah. Well, I think it's really difficult to not allow sessions to be private because you'll just have users do stupid things by accident, not because they want to like hide their bad sessions. And a great example of this is like I've seen users upload pictures of their session, and in the side of it is their like school ID with their name on it, and they're like a teacher at this school or like crazy PII like that. And it's like, bro, can't do that. And like I would go in and I'd be like, mark it private myself, and then I'd email them and be like, hey, just so you know, I marked the session as private because there's PII in it. Like, please don't. Right?
Yeah,
So people can make accidents, and then they need a way to make them private, but it completely skews the data. Because obviously people are going to make their bad sessions private. So the way that we currently handle this is like our stats, we run against all the sessions, including the private ones. And then in the API, what we'll probably do is when you're asking for all the sessions, if a session is private, what we'll probably do is we'll say like this user ID, this is the score that we gave, this session is private. And then most people mark the sessions private that suck, right? And so hopefully it doesn't skew the data like too much. Like if all of the private sessions are like nines or tens, then you're like, okay, well, like sure, that doesn't skew it. If it's all like ones and twos and you're like, oh, this was a great session, but I'm not going to tell you.
What are your
That's
thoughts
different,
on
right?
that's interesting, and I actually hadn't thought about that at all. Like I didn't like what if someone like uploads the wrong file and it's something not
Yeah.
great. What about a potential workaround being that there isn't an so twofold. One, there isn't a way to just click it and it's private. They if they have a session they want to make private, there can be like a feature where they click a button and flag it, and then an admin can review it. And if there is something in it that's private or that needs to come down, then the admin will verify it and basically take it down. But it's not like they could just make a session private for any reason. And the second thing, to catch sessions that the user doesn't know there's something private in it, I could build in like a report feature in the explore page where people can
Yeah.
report, if the user doesn't catch it, someone else sees it and be like, oh, there's an ID or a credit card in there, they can report
Yeah.
it. And I think that might work. I might have to implement that.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want a report feature. Like we've also seen users upload random images of like, not RB sessions, and
Mm.
sometimes they're like not images they should be
Yeah,
uploading on the
no.
website. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so reporting is good. We also have like a thing in place where when you upload your image, we send it to ChatGPT and we say like, is this a random JPEG or is this a remote viewing session? And if it's a random JPEG, we mark it as like low
Wow,
value and
really?
we yeah, take it out of the results. But only of our like 8,000 sessions, only like 600 are marked as low value. So it doesn't happen too much. Um, but yeah, one of the ways that I feel like we can combat that on the platform level is we do show on a user profile how many total sessions they have and how many public
Mm.
sessions they have. And so if you go to someone's profile and they've got like 200 sessions that are total and like 199 are public, you can be like, okay, like this guy's sessions are public.
Yeah.
And if they have like five public with like 200 total sessions, then you're like, okay, this guy sucks and these were just by chance, right?
Mm.
And so that's like another way that we think about it too.
Yeah, you kind of that's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. Something I want to ask you is about you've been teasing this for a while, and I'm very excited to see where you go with it. You've been teasing like the prediction market and like the lost and found items
Mm.
things. I want to ask you about that and what your plans are with that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple features like that require some other features like layered on top that we wanted to build out first. And we're going to be shipping those, one of them today, hopefully, and then the other ones hopefully like in the next week or so because they're nearly done. So talk about those quick and then I'll talk about the prediction markets. And so the first one is group sessions.
Mm.
So if you are with a friend and you want to like, or in a class, you're a teacher, right? Or you're an influencer or something like that, and you want to create a group session where everyone views the same target and then it gets revealed at the same time.
Mhm.
We have that now. That's shipping today, hopefully.
Nice.
And then custom target pools where you can upload your own targets. And then as you create a group session, maybe you can pick your own target pools or even your own individual target or something like
Mm.
that to give to the people to view. So that's going to be done soon, and then that allows us to do something like a lost and found item would be a group session, right? Someone's making a group session with their own custom target. It gets tagged a little differently, so it's like lost and found, and then everyone's trying to view this like item for them, right? So it builds on those features, which is why we're building those features first. ARV is the same thing. It's a type of group session where the target's like uploaded
Mm.
after you know the outcome. Um, but yeah, so we're in contact with someone at Polymarket who's really interested in RV, and they're giving us like a little bit of guidance on like how best to like do some of it. And we also are in contact with some people who are like financial experts, work in markets and stuff like that. So got a little guidance there on like how best to like do the market piece. Not that it's not crazy rocket science, but it's nice to have help for unknown unknowns. And then yeah, hopefully soon we'll have like daily, weekly sessions where they're ARV sessions, and we'll just pull from like a mix of different markets. So when you go do one, you won't know what you're trying to bet on,
Mhm.
trying to view, whether it's like a sporting game or a horse race or number go up in the stock market, things like that. And then we'll show the outcome once it happens. One thing we really want to do on those is like people go to RV tournament and they think RV tournament is like secretly making all this money on their predictions. I actually don't think that that's true, but certainly that's their perception. When we do the ARV, we're going to be very clear, very clear, like, hey, we are going to be using this for like paper trading or real trading, whatever. We'll put those trades on chain so that they get locked in,
That's
whether
cool.
they're paper or real. And then we'll share with users. We'll be like, hey, you did this ARV session. The outcome is not determined yet, but like these are the bets that we're making, and we won't tell you of these bets which one is like the one for your session. These are just
Mm.
the bets we're making, right, on these like 50 different markets today. If you want to follow any of these trades and make the bet yourself, go for it. But we're going to like share that data back with the community. And I don't know if that's exactly the way that we'll do it, because we don't want to skew people in terms of like knowing what their session was before it's like revealed, but we want to give people a way to participate in the trade and have full transparency on the trade, and we don't want to touch their money. I guess so. We're going to figure out the best way to do that.
Yeah, first of all, I absolutely love how transparent you're being with it. And that's actually, it's funny. When I first started building ARV Collective, that was my original idea, was have like group ARV sessions and just paper trade with it. And I didn't have the idea to put it on the blockchain. But the fact that you're doing all of that, and it's gonna, especially because it's gonna be open and people can follow along, that's awesome. I'm so excited for that. I think people are gonna love that. And the other side is like that's the best data. Like if you can
Yeah.
paper trade or really trade successfully using RV, and you integrate your blockchain system so you can absolutely prove that that's where the trading data was coming from, right? You open source your AI judge, like everything. If you can actually make money with it or even paper trade with it, dude, that is the absolute best data you can possibly get. Like even if the data
Yeah.
isn't super sound, if you trade really well with it, but even if like it's not completely provable, but if you trade really well with it, like that's almost as good as it being completely provable.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, we're getting over that milestone of like, is RV real? How can I see the data that shows that this is real? Got the data now. You can go prove it. Now the next hump is like, okay, but like, can it do something economically useful?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's a much more important hump, because most things in the world, right, people just take for granted that they're real because they can do something economically useful. Like most people don't know how electricity works or radio waves work. And if you explain it to them, they'd be like, I don't believe you. That sounds like magic. But the fact that their iPhone works, they're like, okay, it works. I
Yeah.
don't care. And so once RV's doing things that are economically useful, all of a sudden that shuts up a lot of skeptics, because then you can quickly just be like, well, I don't know how it works, but it works. So cool. We're going to do it.
Yeah, I have to give you so much credit, because you're really, in my opinion, you did this the best of basically finishing that step. Like I think I messaged you or someone else about this the other day. I don't know if there's any RV evidence that's as good as yours, not because you have the lowest p-value or because you have the largest data set, but because anyone can verify your data. Like there's so many
Yeah.
studies out there who do great psi experiments with great results, but at the end of the day you can't prove that they didn't fudge the numbers somehow. And that's that you
Yep.
can with yours. So like I think you pretty much solved that step. I mean, it's only going to get better,
Hopefully.
but you pretty much solved that, and I agree with
Appreciate that.
yeah,
Thank
with
you.
the idea of operationalizing it. You know, I'm kind of past the point. I think it's very likely that psi is real at this point. I mean, I'm still open minded, but I think it's very likely that it's real. And I think about a lot what the implications are of it being real and being able to operationalize this. I had this,
Yeah.
I talked to Craig about this, but like thinking about how this would affect markets, like once this, and like how this would basically restructure the economy. Like I know this sounds grandiose, but if you can like, if there's a consistent, even if small, effect for like associative remote viewing or precognitive remote viewing, like I can't even begin to fathom what that would affect, for humanity.
Yeah.
Have you thought about that at all?
I have two thoughts on that. So the one is, I think it's interesting that um, as these psi abilities are coming out, they're like on the heels of technology that empowers people to do a similar thing. And what I mean by that is like, okay, RV lets you view anywhere in the world. Cool. We have satellites that work better than that to go take a picture of anywhere in the world, right? Like telepathy lets you talk to your friend across the country. Cool. I can FaceTime him and get better fidelity. And so I don't know that there's like a provable historical, like telepathy wasn't accepted to be a thing until we had FaceTime, and FaceTime, you know what I mean? But like, it's interesting that a lot of the impacts of Psi, it seems like we already have better technological solutions for. And maybe that like lets the universe give us the Psi, because it's like, it's not going to change anything because they already have the iPhone. So don't worry about it. Maybe, I don't know. That's a thought. But there's another thought that I have, and that is about like human willpower, conscious being willpower. And I know that RV works because I have the data and I ran the experiment. But we don't know that ARV works yet. It'll be really interesting to see if it does. But I have a hypothesis that I'm really looking forward to testing, and that is that the indeterminate part of the universe is related to like willpower or intention of a conscious being.
Hmm.
And the way that we test that, and the way that we show that in the data is when you do a blockchain session on social RV right now, the target is picked after you submit the session
Hmm.
in a precognitive way
Yep.
with like the randomest random number. Any flap of the Solana blockchain would change it, right? So it's super duper random and like shouldn't be better. You shouldn't be able to know by chance. And if you do, you're predicting the future. And if you're predicting the future, then why doesn't ARV work, right? And so if ARV does not work, my hypothesis for why it might be different is when you're making an ARV trade, when you're predicting the outcome of a sporting event, you have invested individuals on both sides of that trade who all have their own like collective willpower, who really want like their team to win or the market to move a specific way. And maybe that like intention and willpower is the randomness that you can't predict. Whereas when you're just predicting a blockchain session, no one cares. No one's like willing that you get the wrong target, right? Only you are willing that you get the right target. And so even though the market is completely random, maybe that's the thing that makes the difference. And maybe that's the thing that makes ARV not work. So that's my hypothesis for why ARV might not work, but we don't know yet. Maybe it'll just work and we'll be billionaires and we'll have Lamborghinis. That's
Well,
possible too.
yeah, I mean that's such a fascinating, opinion on that, and I think there really is a lot of merit, to that. And you're right. The only way to know is to test it. And my whole thought, if it doesn't work, cool, fine. Like it's a very predictable outcome, and like it's not gonna destroy humanity if it doesn't work. Like everything will be the same. It'll be okay. What I really worry about is, I'm not saying that this is even necessarily more likely, but what happens if it does work? And I've thought
Yeah.
about it a little bit, and the current conclusion that I've come to is that it's basically going to restructure. If it is real, it's going to restructure our economic system to basically remove speculation. Like, assuming it's just doing a thought experiment here, right? If ARV is real, there's going to be a period of time before it gets widely operationalized, and before the tricks of the trade of how to operationalize it successfully become known by the mainstream and a bunch of different companies. There's going to be like a massive competitive advantage, and there's going to be a massive economic opportunity for basically people who know how to do it to make a bunch of money. And then over time, as the word gets out and people start researching it more, the knowledge doesn't become the barrier to entry. I think that everyone becomes, has some sort of, all these big companies, all these big hedge funds, whatever, these investors have ARV as part of their prediction model. And they basically, the competitive advantage basically cancels each other out, right? And in that case, if everyone kind of has the same baseline understanding of the future, like speculation and investing kind of isn't possible, because everybody knows what the outcome is going to be. And then there's going to be like this massive restructuring where like what the best investments are going to be, and then everyone invests in those things. And it's the math starts to get very complex about how this actually plays out in specific examples. I don't think it would be catastrophic. Like I don't think it would like destroy the concept of money or anything, but I do think that in that case, like a lot of weird stuff would happen, and it would restructure a lot of things. But I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I get so excited about the future of this stuff just because like I think the potential positive impact is so profound. That's kind of why I'm so obsessed with it.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly a valid thought. If it does work well, that is probably what's going to happen. It is kind of interesting that it's coming on the heels of like AGI and robotics and money not meaning anything anymore. Like is back to like, oh, we have satellites, we have FaceTime, like we have AGI, we don't need money. So it's fine for like Psy to make money meaningless or speculation meaningless because we don't need it anymore. Like I don't know.
What's funny
Who
about
knows?
going back, that just reminded me something. Going back to the thought you said earlier about how like you kind of have this hypothesis where it's like as technology basically has the same effect as Psi, that's when Psi can start to like be utilized. It's kind of funny that like as we get into this like the super technological age and things like Neuralink become possible, like as people are literally going to be able to be telepathic, that's when Psi starts to get recognized as real, and things like that.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Have you seen? Do you know what an organoid is? Have you seen that?
No, it sounds cool though.
So an organoid is this is a product you can use today from some company in Switzerland. They grow brain stem cells on a petri dish that has an electrode array in it, and you can use it as a service, connect to it from a computer, and you basically can feed it like electrical impulses of data, and you train it like a machine learning model, and it can learn to predict different things.
Wow.
It's an organic ML model, basically. Or it's not a machine model; it's an organic learning model. It's a brain. And you they have them in petri dishes. You can just sign up and use them. And people have even like had them control like cars and stuff. They learn really fast. They can learn to play Pong and stuff like
I
that really
saw that on
fast.
Twitter actually. Now that you mention it, I
Yeah.
saw it playing Pong.
So it might be the case maybe in the future that you could, I don't think this is ethical, but maybe if you're crazy, you could like train it to do the sci for you. And then if it turns out that machines aren't psychic and you can't train an LLM to remote view, which maybe you can, maybe you can't, maybe you can train an organoid to remote view because it'll have like quantum, whatever effect, it'll be conscious maybe, or I don't know. Who knows? We'll see.
That's so interesting and that's confusing to me, dude. Even like training like neurons to play Pong, are they? I guess it doesn't even like matter. I mean, it depends what your model of consciousness is. I guess it doesn't even matter if they're human neurons. Like, how is that? What are the implications morally of that? That's so like that's kind of scary to think about.
Yeah, there's one experiment they ran where they basically put the brain, the organoid, in a simulation, literally the movie The Matrix, and it controlled a digital butterfly
Oh my
flying around,
gosh.
and its senses were the senses of the butterfly in the like game simulation. It was a Matrix butterfly. Um, yeah, so that's a thing that exists that probably not ethical. We probably won't do anything with that, but it's certainly interesting from a research perspective.
It is. Dude, there's so many. That's the thing that scares me about technology so much. Like, I'm not. I don't even need to go into my particular, religious stance, but it's a whole thing in religion where it's like it's forbidden to play God. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
forbidden to do things that replicate God, and like we're entering a technological age where we're literally like growing neurons and forcing them to do shit in a petri dish, which is like pretty much as close as you can get to being God without actually being God. And like all of these religious texts say that we all die when that happens and we all go to hell. Like we're kind of entering so much uncertainty, and so much like potential to do things that can potentially be very destructive. It's actually very scary if you think about it. And I don't know, man. It's a little overwhelming. We just need
we're
AGI to
getting
take over and give us the answer to how we're fucking up, or maybe that will be the fuck up. Who knows?
we're getting ready for it. Yeah, or maybe the Psy revolution will make everyone a lot more empathetic, and you can talk to the organoid now, and you can say like, "Are you happy? Yes or no?"
Well, yeah, that's true, dude. And I got into sci from UFO world because like you start to cross reference a bunch of these like abduction cases and these like NHI human interactions, and like there's so much psi going on, and it seems that a lot of these NHI are benevolent because they're
Yeah,
basically like one communal organism that just fractured into a bunch of individual entities, but consciously they're all kind of one. And you hear about that sort of thing in like the telepathy tapes, for example. So I really do think that there's a lot of. It's so hard because there's so many technological things that seem so promising, and there's so many technological things that seem like they could absolutely destroy us both physically and ethically. So
yeah.
I'm kind of just in a constant state of what the fuck nowadays. Like I just don't know what's going on, and it's very scary. But what are you gonna do? You gotta fucking just do the best you can, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, everything changes every week, and something new happens every week now, and it's just thrashing everybody back and forth technologically and with the side disclosure stuff, UFO disclosure stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. I think that's a good note to leave the viewers with a little bit of existential dread at the end of the podcast. Chew on that, viewers. But yeah, man. No, I think this was awesome. I think it was a good conversation. People are gonna get a lot of value from this. Is there anything else, I guess, to end this off? I mean, we spoke a lot of the features that you have coming out. Anything else you want to talk about or plug before we wrap up?
Yeah, the last thing I'd say is like check out ARV Collective, check out Social RV, check out the other apps too. Like everyone's pushing the space forward, right? And tell your friends that Psi is real. Show them the stats, because at the end of the day, this only works if we grow the community, right? And we bring the next million people in to be like sci curious and check it out for themselves.